Ever feel like you're running on fumes? Like you're constantly
Hmm.
saying yes when honestly you just want to take a break.
Oh, tell me about it. We've all been there.
Well, get ready to dive into something that might just change your life because today we're talking about setting healthy boundaries. And no, this isn't just another self-help buzzword.
Not at all. This is about reclaiming your peace, your energy, even your sanity.
Love that. So we just dug into an episode of Real Talk with Lady T,
Oh, great episode.
and they really break down this whole boundary thing in a way that I think will really click for our listeners. Like they start with this idea of boundaries being like invisible lines. What do they even mean by that?
It's such a powerful image, right? Think about it. Invisible lines are everywhere, even if we don't always see them. They define countries, property lines, even lanes in a swimming pool. We may not see them, but they're crucial for keeping things in order. And when it comes to boundaries in our own lives, well, they're crucial for our well-being.
So we're talking about drawing lines in the sand. But with our time, our energy, our emotional space. Did I get that right?
Exactly. It's about defining what you're willing to accept from others and what you absolutely will not.
So then how come so many of us struggle with this?
Well, it's fascinating, right? Because a lot of us actually have those lines somewhere in the back of our minds, but we don't enforce them.
Because we don't want to seem selfish.
Exactly. We're afraid to rock the boat,
Well,
right?
that's right.
And both Lady T and Mr. Terrific were very clear about this. Setting boundaries is not about being selfish at all. If anything, it's the opposite. It's about protecting yourself so that you can actually show up as the best, most energized version of yourself for the people you care about. You know what they say, you can't pour from an empty cup.
100%. Okay, that makes sense. But how do we know if we need to work on our boundaries? I mean, what are some signs?
Yeah, so they gave some red flags to watch out for. Like, do you constantly feel overwhelmed? Do you ever feel like people take advantage of your generosity? Or maybe you're always putting everyone else's needs before your own, even if it makes you unhappy.
Oof, yeah. That last one especially, it's like this feeling of always being on, like never giving yourself permission to just unplug and recharge.
Yeah.
I've definitely been there.
And that is a classic sign that your boundaries might need a little attention. They also talked about how feeling obligated to say yes to things you really don't want to do is a major indicator. Like, you're drowning in commitments, but you keep saying yes because you just don't want to disappoint anyone.
It's so easy to fall into that trap.
Right. It is.
So let's say you're listening to this and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's me. How do you start setting those boundaries? Where do you even begin?
Mr. Terrific had a really good point about this. He said it all starts with self-reflection. You have to get crystal clear on what your non-negotiables are.
Okay, so what are those things when it comes to your time, energy, your well-being, the things that are absolute deal breakers for you?
Exactly. It's like taking inventory, right?
Yeah.
What are your limits? What are you willing to put up with? And what absolutely won't you budge on?
So you figure out those non-negotiables. Then what? Then comes the hard part.
Right.
Actually telling other people.
You're right. It can be a little awkward at first. People aren't used to it. We're afraid of ruffling feathers, of hurting someone's feelings by saying no.
Go true.
But what Lady T and Mr. Terrific really emphasized is that clear, respectful communication is key.
Okay, but how do you actually do that? Is there like a script or something?
You don't need a script. Just be direct, be honest, but you don't need to over-explain yourself or apologize for needing some space or time for yourself. Something as simple as, I can't take on that project right now, but thank you for thinking of me, or I'm taking some time for myself this weekend to recharge.
Easy peasy, right? But I love how Lady T talked about the power of no. I mean, it's such a small word, but sometimes it feels impossible to say.
Doesn't it? She actually called it liberating.
I love that. Such a powerful reframe. Because saying no to someone else often means saying yes to yourself, to your well-being, your peace of mind.
So important.
It is.
But it's so easy for that guilt to creep in, especially when it's like someone we love. We don't want to disappoint them or seem like we're being selfish.
Oh, absolutely. That's something everyone struggles with. But that's where this whole mindset shift comes in, you know? Because remember, setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's self-care. It's about recognizing what you need, what your limits are, so that you can show up as the best version of yourself, not just for everyone else, but for you too.
That makes so much sense. It's almost like we've been, I don't know, conditioned to put other people's needs ahead of our own.
Totally. And it's not really anyone's fault. We're just taught from a young age to be agreeable, to avoid conflict, to be nice no matter what.
Right, like just say yes and figure it out later, even if it means sacrificing your own sanity in the process. Exactly, and that's the thing. Setting boundaries actually isn't about creating conflict, it's about preventing it. Because when you're clear about your limits up front, it actually makes misunderstandings and resentment way less likely to build up over time.
So setting those boundaries is almost like laying the foundation for healthier, stronger relationships.
Yes, that's a great way to put it. It's about setting those expectations right from the beginning so that everyone's on the same page and you're coming from a place of self-respect. And remember, it's not just about saying no. It's about being assertive about what you need. If something makes you uncomfortable, you say something. If you need help, ask for it. You deserve to have a voice, to make choices in your own life.
That is so empowering. Okay, so we talked about setting boundaries, but what about this whole reclaiming your peace part? Where does that come in? What does Lady T and Mr. Terrific have to say about that?
Well, they both emphasized how important self-care is. Mr. Terrific actually shared his own routine. He makes sure to carve out time for himself every single day just to recharge. Sometimes it's reading, sometimes it's meditating, and other days it's going for a walk out in nature.
Love that. See, it doesn't have to be this big elaborate thing. Sometimes the simplest things really are the most effective.
Absolutely.